Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Following the lead of many other shows, this year's East LA Cape is going digital. The East Los Angeles Comic Book Art and Pop Culture Expo, or CAPE for short, was founded in 2016 by a group of pop culture and comic book fans who grew up in East LA. Headed by Peter J. Malini, who owns Nostalgic Books and Comics in San Diego, California, the show is dedicated to creating community and bringing together artists and vendors from our surrounding neighborhoods so that we can all enjoy the art that our community has to offer, and to connect you to independent artists so that you can support their work. This is our 10th episode of our virtual Artist Alley, where we will be highlighting our community of artists and vendors. Justin Rueff is a Mexican-American artist, designer, and comic book creator. He was born in Whittier, California, and moved to Dayton, Ohio as a baby. Justin says he always felt like he came from two different places, but never completely fit into either. Art and music have always been a huge part of his life. He is equally influenced by Mexican surrealism and traditional art, as he is by pop culture and comic books. Justin has always been an obsessive doodler since grade school and has always loved to draw. He left home at 16 and returned to California, where he completed school and began working as a teaching artist. He has an insatiable wanderlust and has lived in Long Beach, Los Angeles, Hawaii, and now Portland, Oregon. After moving to Oregon, he began working as a sign painter. He has always loved to draw, but didn't have a lot of confidence with color. Working as a sign painter cured him of that, and now color is his favorite aspect in creating art. Justin also has developed a fondness for typography and has done lettering designs for his own projects as well as for others. He paints murals, does food, beer, and label designs, and creates comics. He wrote and illustrated Brother Crow number 1, 2, and 3, The Guide to Understanding the Never-Ending Story, and an upcoming romance comic. He splits his time between Los Angeles and Portland. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Justin.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Cool, man. So we like to start off asking like the big question. So how did you what got you into art in the first place?
I saw when you guys sent out the email that was going to be one of the questions, and I just like I don't even know how to answer because like I can't think of a time when art was not a part of my life. My grandmother was an artist. One of my closest aunts was like an incredible artist. My father was artistic, and it's like you can go through every notebook from kindergarten up to like all the way through my entire like there's doodles on every single page. I've just been making art my whole life, and I'm not like I've never been somebody that like fills out a job application and tries to wait for somebody to like tell me what I can and can't do. I've just kind of been like doing my life like going towards the thing that I want to do. When I was when I was in high school, when I was 14, I was like in a punk band, and everyone that I was around and that I was hanging out with, like we all had like this total like DIY sensibility. So there was never like I don't remember there really being an entry point. I just remember it always being something that I did. And now it's like the only thing that I do. So
That's great. So tell us, what are you selling or what services are you offering?
I have the comic book, of course, Brother Crow. So this is issue 2 right here. And here's the first one. And actually, this first one came out the same year as the first, you guys were calling it East LA Comic Con back then. And I even have like a little acknowledgement for East LA Comic Con in here. Because this book came out like right at the same time. And this was the first show that I had ever done. And that first year, it was amazing. It was so good. And I was just like, oh man, this is going to be easy. Like, I'm just going to sell so many comic books. And boy, I was in for a surprise. But so I'm selling the comics, and I've got those all up on my site. I also do another little comic called The Guide to Understanding the Never-Ending Story. I like to talk about art. I love movies. There's movies get mentioned in my comic all the time. But I also like to I like to think about art a lot, and I like to think about like beyond just like what do you like and what do you not like, but really kind of like have a little bit more elevated conversation with the art, like really enter into a dialogue with it. So I did this guide to the Neverending Story because like I saw that movie in the theater when I was a kid. It really imprinted on me, and it's like so rich with symbology. And it's like when I was on YouTube one day and I saw people like in the comments talking about a scene from the Neverending Story, and I'm just like, man, these people just don't. They're not engaging with it. They're not getting what this movie's really about. So I'm like, I need to write the definitive guide. So I did that. Um, I also have. So this is the newest thing I've done. This is Brother Crow #3, and let me get on the camera. There it is. And so everything that I'm doing is, so I'm self-publishing everything. So I kind of got to this point where it's like, well, I did 2 issues of the regular floppy comic. But the new one, I want to try something different. Like I just want to go in a new direction. And because I'm, self-publishing it, I have the freedom to do whatever I want. So this is actually, it's a risograph. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that printing process, but it's actually pretty cool. It's like a photocopy machine that is almost like a silk screen machine. It's got these big drums with like each color of ink is inside of it. And so it just passes 1 and then 2 with each color. So here's the original pencils on. Actually, you know what? Let me switch my camera. I'll show you. Okay. Can you see that? So there's the original pencils for a few of the pages. And then I do a separate for the orange that's going to get laid on there. And then it just prints out like that. And then I just cut it up and staple it at home. So these ones are a little bit more expensive. They're $10, but they're also like printed in Oregon. They're not printed overseas. They're a little bit more expensive. It's nicer paper. And I just wanted to try something different. And because, it's my thing, I can do whatever I want with it. And I love the way that this came out. And I'm working on #4 right now. And I thought that #4 was going to be another risograph thing, but that was kind of before the end of the world. So now that we're where we're at now, I might just do more pen and ink type of thing and make it available digital and figure out a way that I can print it and like have a physical copy of it that is, something that I can make with the resources that I have available to me right now. So, and the story is all about being adaptable anyway. So I kind of figured like that's kind of where I'm at with it. Um, just like I was saying about like the never-ending story, like I love symbology, I love metaphor, I love stories that are supposed to teach you something or make you think about things differently. So that's really with the Brother Crow comic, I'm going really into that. And I saw these little magnets. These are little paintings. Here's one from the Neverending Story. Those are all from my, these are all on my Etsy shop. Here's the Apollo 7. What else? I got some flowers, desert flowers, Mothra. That one's Death Race 2000. So I got a bunch of these. And I also do like these little printed magnets. I got magnets. This is from my next comic that's going to be coming out. It's going to be all painted. It's a soap opera. This is one of the villains in it. And let's see. What else do I have? Stickers. Those will all be up on my Etsy shop pretty soon. I just printed a bunch of new stickers. Oh, here, I got one from my. So that's the main character in my soap opera comic that's going to be coming out. Don't ask me when it's coming out because I started telling people about it way too early, and I'm still doing it. I'm working on it now, so I'm very excited about it. But it's been a little slow going on that one. Brother Crow, I can make an issue pretty quickly. But with this one, because I'm painting everything, it takes me a long time to do a single page. So I'm making good progress on it, and I'm hoping that I can have like a 30-page book done sometime in the middle of 2021 maybe. And this is a new thing that I'm doing. So I do these little painted magnets, and this one's gonna be like, you can have like your little personalized cartridge that goes in the top, and then here's whatever you want to spend your skill point on. I'll go ahead and fill that in right there. So this is for my friend Matt, who wanted an extra focus point to help him get some work done. So whatever skill point you guys are looking for, we can personalize that, and I'll figure out a way to get that up on Etsy as well. And I got a bunch of these sticker packets. I just got to figure out how to group them so that I'm not just selling one sticker through Etsy, because it just seems like, because of the price and everything, it just doesn't seem very reasonable to like sell just one sticker. So I might do like packs of 5 or something like that. And paintings.
That's real cool, man. So for the audience, I mean, let us know. Give us an idea what Brother Crow's about.
Brother Crow. So, all right. So Brother Crow is about. I always try to figure out like a way to tell you what it's about without telling you what happens. But really, it's about like everybody has this magical voice inside of them, and you have this amount of time to like get it out of you and spread it into the world. The idea is that music is a living thing. It has a spirit. It has a soul. It's born. It dies. It's reborn. And so this is just a story of like a moment where this musical spirit has manifest on Earth, and these 2 kids are kind of caught up in that. Another thing about it is that like I had this idea that Brother Crow was going to be like a musical. So when I think about this comic book, like there's music playing through all of this, and you can kind of like, if you're reading it, you can kind of hear what the music would sound like. So it starts out with this kind of jazzy song, and in my imagination, this was always like a Nina Simone song, and then it starts following these 2 punk rock kids. Let me show you. And so this kind of like sets the next part of the like what the sound of the music is in there. So honestly, the dream is once I finish all 6 issues of this, I can get like a little team of like musicians or voice actors or somebody and do like, I don't know, like a video or an animation or paper puppets or something. Just like I think like I was kind of telling you before, is like I've always been somebody who's just like move towards the thing, like just keep moving forward, trust that it's gonna be rewarded if you move in that direction. So right now I feel like the thing is just to finish the story, get all the books done, but I've got more further to go once I get there as well.
So you mentioned that you like to kind of think of things in terms of like the symbology and the iconography and stuff. So why a crow?
Dude, there is so much in this. Okay, so it's like, here, I'll just start laying it out for you. They're all animals. Everyone in this comic book is based on an animal. This dude, Danny Del Rios, is a bird, and Amanda Lazarus is a cat. Obviously, she's got the cat thing. Book 3, we kind of get into one of the characters who's a raccoon. So there's his little raccoon cassette on the back. And Brother Crow is, he's in it too. Here we see Brother Crow coming out of the mirror right there with his violin. But the crow is, I mean, it's very easy to say that like he's kind of like a symbol for death, but he's also like attracted by that kind of like that last moment, that most glorious moment. He's smart. He's attracted to like shiny and bright and beautiful things. So it's kind of, that's what the story is. It's about this moment where this spirit has become like the most bright that it's going to be, and that's what attracts Brother Crow.
So there wasn't anything else specifically with like the symbol of the crow, like the mythology and the history of like how crows are used in other like stories or anything like that?
Well, in terms of how they're used in other stories, I don't know. For me, like the kind of symbols that I put into my own artwork or into my own stories is kind of like I try to be follow it more intuitively. I mean, I can tell you like the real catalyst for this story is that where I grew up, you know, I was telling you earlier that I was in a punk band in Dayton, Ohio, and there was this band that my friends and we all loved called Brainiac, and they were amazing. They were like, I've seen that band live more than any other band. Um, they really changed the way that I thought about art. They changed the way that I thought about music. I like, I don't know, when I say punk, like sometimes I feel like we think of this one style of music, but when I was a kid, like the goal was to sound different from everybody else. Like we weren't all trying to like I don't even remember anybody talking about power chords, you know, like we were just all kind of doing our own thing. But these guys were really amazing, and they put out like 7 records. Um, Tim Taylor, we would see him in the record store all the time. Um, Dayton has this rich history of music. Like the Ohio Players are from Dayton, Zapp and Roger are from Dayton, so like all this funk music is from Dayton. Um, they started getting a lot of major label interest and got a bunch of checks. And Tim went out and he bought a car, and it like leaked carbon monoxide into the cab. It was it was kind of a crappy car, um, but he bought it with this check, and I don't know if he had been drinking or what the thing is, but he was in the car and fell asleep and had a fatal car accident. And it was devastating to everyone that was in the scene. I mean, this guy, he was like going on a tour with Nine Inch Nails. Like they were like, he was getting noticed by Beck. Like he was right at that moment where they were going to be like the world was going to know how awesome this band that we all loved is. And those records still hold up, man. Like the end of the '90s, they don't sound dated. They don't sound like '90s music. Like it could have come out tomorrow and it would sound like revolutionary. Um, so I mean, really, that was the real catalyst for this story. Is like just this, you know, like that tragic story when somebody like goes before their time. It's like you just imagine like where were they going to go next? Like, you know, like we've seen the entirety of the output of this genius. So that was really like the spirit of Tim is really what inspired me to do the story of Brother Crow.
That's cool, man. So you've talked about how art has been in it has been part of your life forever, and music's been a big thing. But when you were younger, were you into comics at all?
Totally, 100%. Yeah. Um, my mom worked at the Stop and Go, so you know, back in those days, we didn't need comic book shops. We just went to the gas station, you know? And my mom brought home. It was Spider-Man, Atlantis Attacks. I think was the first one that and it's like I don't remember the story being all that great, but man, that artwork was like just it blew my mind. Like I remember that feeling of being like, well, this is a magazine that has nothing but drawings in it. Like that is legit. And then when I started like kind of getting older, um, I I feel like my personal taste really developed like around the time of like late for Milk and Cheese, like Evan Dorkin stuff, Stray Bullets, all the slave labor stuff I was really into, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Like that was like I I didn't really get into the Marvel stuff until like way later. Like here and there I'd pick one up, but like I kind of always felt like you can kind of come and go with Marvel. and like, you know, the stories don't, you know, like you can jump right in. Like sometimes it feels like they haven't really gone anywhere. um, Now, more recently, I like some of the Marvel stuff. I love Brian K. Uh, Javier El Muerto. Like I know he's doing his Kickstarter right now. Like I think that's the stuff that I get most excited about right now. Is like the people that I see that are doing their own thing. Like just like I like picking up comic books and seeing somebody's voice. Like to me, like I don't need to ever like write for one of the big two. You know, I don't know, like that. Like I like Miss Marvel. I like Brian Michael Bendis. Like I like people who talk about like to me Brian Michael Bendis writes like almost like a play. Like he likes to do dialogue. Like he likes to write about relationships, and I love that kind of writing. Like same thing with Brian K. Vaughan. Like his dialogue is so good, and to me like the art might get me to open the cover, but like it's got to be the writing. Like the writing to me, like the story, if it's a compelling story, I'm in. Like I'll stick with it. um but I don't know, I'm reading X-Force right now. I just reread Watchmen because you know we all got to see it for free. So I just reread that. You know, I love like the classics like Dark Knight Returns and like all that kind of stuff. Tank Girl was my jam. Okay, so I'll tell you right now, on this arm, I've got Tank Girl. And on this arm, I've got the presidential escape rocket from Stray Bullets. um, yeah, comic books have been a part of my life since forever. But honestly, like my first, in my heart, my first love is for like just art in general. Like I love like the Mexican surrealists. I love Frida Kahlo. I love like just like I love Mexican art because like I love that those color palettes and I love that like super vibrant color. I just think like the way that you can put like a teal and a salmon together, you know, in like ways that like I don't know. It's just like they put colors together that vibrate, you know, and it's like I love that. So you know, yeah. I mean, uh, I read a comic book every single morning. Like part of my routine is get up in the morning. I've got this Spotify playlist that's nothing but soundtracks, mostly horror movies, but a couple others. So nothing with lyrics, and I just turn on some music and my cup of coffee. I'm sitting at this table, and I'll just read a comic book from front to back. I'll do Comixology or whatever, but I really prefer just having a thing in my hand to kind of like read, you know. But yeah, why? What comic do you want to talk about? I read them all.
I love that morning routine. Actually, that sounds like I'm gonna try to implement a version of that. That sounds super cozy. Just like waking up, you've got music, you've got coffee, you've got just something that you know you can consume in a small amount of time before the rest of the day starts. And I think that's kind of one of the beauties of comics, right? Is you can actually like go from the beginning to end. I'll let Pete ask about comic book questions because he's definitely much more of an expert than I am. I was going to comment on the Mexican art thing because I love that too. One of the things that I love about that style is like just these huge blocks of like, there's a lot of primary colors in these like large spaces. And that's one of my favorite things that I like to stare at is just like these giant blocks of colors that like, I have a soft spot for like, just your traditional like, impressionist stuff, but like I love the big sections of colors that just kind of stand that you can just get lost in one big block. Yeah, that's definitely like my favorite kind of thing that I like aesthetically like to stare at. But yeah, I'll let Pete take over the comic book talk.
No, it's really cool. I mean, and then so is that what inspired you to make your own comics? It's just like kind of
when I first moved to Portland, I was good friends with a guy who was really getting into comics, and he was going like he wanted to work for Marvel, and so he was going a very like traditional route, and he was hanging out with the comic book community, but it wasn't really like I don't know. I didn't feel like it was a good fit for me because I wasn't as excited about just making comics or about making comic books as I was about making art. And so it's like I got into sign painting. And so a lot of that, like, that's why I make these little mini paintings. And I do like, I mean, you can see I'm like surrounded by my paintings. I started painting for a movie theater here in Portland. So, like, new movie posters that come out, I'll do like a hand painted one to put up. Um, and it's like, I do that, like, that's the way I like to think about things too, is like how you were saying, is like those big blocks of color. Like, I want you to be able to read this thing from like a mile away. And a lot of that, that painting style from sign making is very much the way that I color my comic books. Like, I think about it in the big blocks of color, and I know that there's trends with the textures and everything. But like, and that's cool. And like, if that's the crap that you want to follow, then like, I think that there's people doing really amazing, beautiful work, but that's just not, that's not my voice. And so I think that, well, let me back up a little bit. So I painted signs for a major grocery store out here, which kind of hooked me up with a lot of food vendors. I've done label design, I've done beer labels, I've painted for farms, like big giant murals outside of farms for people to come and pick their own peaches or whatever. And one guy that used to come into the store all the time when I was working and painting, he started talking to me about like, hey, are you? I mean, we would just talk about comic books anyway, because like, he was a nerd and I'm a nerd, so we'd talk comics, or he'd see me reading comics or whatever. And he told me that he was working on a science fiction comic book, and I don't know how much I can tell you about his book because it hasn't come out yet. But I started doing some character design for him, and I started doing like some titles for him. And then that's another thing that came out of sign painting, is like I would have never imagined typography would be something I'd be interested in at all. And it's like, but now I love it. Like, I like those beautiful Art Nouveau kind of letters, or like the cover of Eerie or Creepy, those kind of drippy, like Misfits looking letters. Like, I love that stuff, man. So I did some lettering design for him, and I kind of got a real like peek behind the curtain in seeing him go through this process. Um, and it really kind of made me start thinking about like, well, I could do this. Like I have a story that I'd like to tell, because I've always been, I've been interested in writing, and like I've written stuff just for myself. And it's like when I first started writing Brother Crow, I thought it was going to be a novel, like a fantasy novel, and I would just page after page of me just like describing the way things look that like nobody would care about if they were reading. But it's like, to draw it is so easy, like if you can just draw it there. um, and it's a lot more the process of making the book became a lot more pleasurable for me when I started drawing it. And the same thing, like when I changed the style, it's just like it keeps it so that it's like still fun for me, because I think that like if I'm enjoying the process of making these comics, um, it's going to be easier for someone reading it to enjoy it as well.
Thank you for that. So this is a question that we've been kind of asking everybody, and you mentioned it a little bit before the interview started. Was how have you been dealing with the pandemic, and just how has your life and your art and your creative process been since March-ish?
Well, so one of the things that I do is I teach. I was teaching some mural painting classes, so I'd get like a gang of like fifth and sixth graders all the way up to high school, and we just like hit a wall in their school. Um, and it's so good for me to just be around people, and to, because it's like I spend so much time in my office. I spend so much time just like writing or working or putting things online or scrolling Facebook forever, which like it's just, I don't want to get into Facebook, but like, man, it's like I feel like it's starting to not like. Then we used to show each other like sandwiches and kitty cats, like let's go back. Um, but not to minimize things that people are upset about, because it's legit. Um, but I also worked at the movie theater. I volunteered at the movie theater. I painted signs for them. obviously movie theaters are getting hit pretty hard. I'm like I said earlier, I don't know if I said this before or during the interview, but like I love movies. Like I love classic movies. Like I Hitchcock, Billy Wilder, like all those old movies. And so this theater up the street here has 35 millimeter prints that they show of old movies. They've got their own 70 millimeter print of 2001. So it's like, and actually there's a couple of other comic book people who volunteer there as well. So I've met some really cool people just hanging out at the theater. And I
Do
was
you have
volunteering.
this like relationship where you paint the signs and you get free movies and kind
Well,
of get
yeah,
back and forth? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. And it's cool because like the community out here totally supports it because like you guys are in LA and it's like you you're not but you're basically where movies come from, right? And so like it's everywhere out there, but out here it's like we've got a really good arts community who will support something like this. Like we still got a video store out here that is like pretty legit as well, and they're still thriving even during the pandemic. But but obviously I can't go there. I can't. They're not letting people in. They're doing like private screenings now. So it's this huge theater. They do a silent movie every month with like an organist in there. And so like just like it's a huge theater, right? And it's got like that old facade from like the 30s. I think it must have been here for like at least 100 years. I don't know. Somebody more knowledgeable could probably tell you that, but I don't think that's too far off. Um, but I miss it. I miss being around other people. I find being around other people very inspiring. I do spend the majority of my time just kind of by myself in the office. I'm still teaching through Zoom and things like that. And it's nice to talk to you guys. It's nice to have other people around. I do D&D online with some friends. But I'm, yeah, I'm ready to be I just want to be allowed to be around other people so then I can say no and stay home all day.
I know, I feel that too, because one of the things that as the pandemic started, I realized that my life didn't change all that much. And I was like, I think my life was already boring. But I wound myself up so hard because it was the lack of option.
Yeah.
So I'm such an extrovert, even though I do spend a lot of time, you're right, like how kind of have you said, like in my office and working. I am completely and utterly energized by other people. And so
Okay.
not having that option, I was just like imploding. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I need to Zoom everyone. And it's
Yeah.
great because now everyone is so willing to like do video chats that I'm like, well, at least I can see humans in real time.
Well, yeah, as you're saying that, I was thinking like, well, that is the nice thing about this is that like, dude, before this happened, like nobody was wanting to play D&D online with me, and now it's like, I got time, dude. I got the Criterion channel now. Like I've explored all the streaming options. I don't know. There's a lot of good that's coming out of it, and I think that like having employers look at the way the world could work, looking at like our impact on the environment, like the kind of the fallout that's shaking out from all of this. Um, I don't think that like, but I'm not a person who like I'm always this kind of person like nobody likes a fence sitter, but like I can't help it, like I can see different points of view. And so like I'm not someone who's super eager to say like this is a good thing or that's a bad thing. I think that the pandemic is going to be something that results in a tremendous amount of change, and some of it is going to benefit people, and a lot of it is making people struggle right now. So I know everybody needs a hug, so like,
It's true. Like it really just affects how you just interact with people in general now. Like I have so many people they'll come into the store and I'll help them buy a book or whatever, and then they go for the handshake, and you just kind of like stare. You kind of stare at them like,
yeah.
And then
What
they
you
kind
need
of
is just like a yardstick with a glove
yeah,
on it.
yeah, it takes them a second to like remember, like, oh wait, yeah, we don't do that anymore.
I'm on board with the yardstick idea. I
Yeah,
think
as long as we all have one.
Yeah.
Right? They're 3 feet each, right? So
Yeah,
we're good.
like a retractable one, like go gadget handshake.
Yeah.
So tell us, how can people find you? What are your links? What's your Etsy store name?
So the Etsy store I just opened up, so there's not a ton of stuff on there. I've got all my little mini paintings are on there now, and it's Chalk Design by Justin is my Etsy store. My website which has a lot of the same stuff that's on my Etsy store. I'm moving things over to my Etsy store. Is www.justinrueff.com, RUEFF. That's also my Instagram handle. Everything that you can find people on, I use my own name. I'm Justin Rueff everywhere I go. And there's also a Facebook page for Brother Crow, which is just Facebook/Brother Crow Comic. And one thing is that I do custom signs. I do vinyl. So like I've got this vinyl sticker of the Ouroboros here. So like, this thing's pretty big. That's like 13 inches. So like if you've got your office, your store, your business, whatever it is, if you want a custom sign in there, I can help you get your idea out there. And that's the kind of stuff that I get really excited about, is like if somebody's got a brand or a product or a store or something like that. I also like doing calendars. So any of that kind of stuff. And I think that's it. Yeah. I think I answered your question where you can find me. Mostly, most of my stuff's on Instagram. That's where you're going to see the most of my work. And the Etsy shop is probably the best place to buy stuff.
Real cool. Real cool. I didn't know you did that. I'm gonna have to hit you up soon because the store is hitting its 10th anniversary next year. So.
All right, on. Yeah. Oh man, that's quite a milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah. How have you been doing during this pandemic? Like,
It's been interesting. I mean, like we were technically closed for about 7 or 8 weeks, I think.
yeah.
And then they let us come back and do the curbside thing, and then there's kind of like learning curve there. And now we're kind of back to normal. Like we have, the regulations and everything, but shipping in general is like cut in half. So it's been weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's been nice though. It's like a smaller bill to worry about every week.
Yeah. 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 And I know that, like, I don't know, to me, like, I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, Peter, and I'm sorry if I'm getting like totally on a tangent here, but like I feel like maybe 4-5 years ago, in my opinion, Marvel was just like hitting it. Like there were
Oh
so many
yeah.
good books. And I kind of feel like, X-Men came out last year, the Jonathan Hickman stuff, and then it was like, that was pretty legit. But it's like, what else you got, Marvel? Like,
Yeah.
why are you shipping this many books every month when you've got literally nothing to say?
Yeah. No, I totally feel you. I think other than the Hickman stuff, that was amazing, man. And the fact that like it got interrupted with the pandemic, it just driving me crazy.
Yeah. So I continued reading X-Force. I don't remember who the artist is on that one, but I just love the look of it. Like it looks very different than a lot of the other books. So like that one I'm pretty excited about. And I like Domino. I think Domino is a cool character.
That's the thing that interests me about the mainstream comics is that they'll bring in different types of artists, and you're just like, oh, this book looks like an indie comic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I like that one. I like Mike Del Mundo. I like a lot.
Yeah.
I like his style. The Adrian Alphona stuff. I don't know if he's still working with Marvel, but
What's he doing? I think he's doing an Image book right now. He's doing something with Lemire.
yeah, when he was on Miss Marvel, though, like G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alphona together on Miss Marvel, like that is like top tier in my opinion. And I love going back and looking at his work on Runaways. It's like you can see him get better. like
Mhm.
each issue, you're like, oh man, like the clothes are looking better,
Yeah.
the hair textures are looking better. By the time he's on Miss Marvel, his work is just looking like he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like those early issues of Runaways is very like manga inspired. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it look, and they started getting closer towards it's more of an original style. Yeah, it's really good stuff,
Yeah, right on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Justin. It was really fun. And I will be putting your links after the interview so that everybody can screenshot it and buy your stuff and hire you. And yeah, so thank you so much.
Right on. Thank you for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun.